Try before we die, the whiskey review show where we don't know what we're drinking, but we'll tell you what we're thinking. Mal.
I'm going to get you Velcro gloves.
What do you think?
One thing you're going to do is you're going to peel like this.
The beard is happening.
It is. You've been doing some grooming.
Yep.
And some graying.
Silvering. It's not a grayback, it's a silverback.
Just come to grips with it, dude.
All right. Like your shirt.
We're old.
And your head.
And my head.
We've still got Red Randy. That's okay. I'm going to give the guy a raise.
Is he coming back, or are we just going to switch?
If we cut up his passport,
then he can't go anywhere.
Then he can't go anywhere.
I like that idea.
All right. Hundreds of bottles of single malt Scotch whiskey in this bar, Mal. We have no idea which one we're going to open and try tonight.
No idea what we're talking about.
It may still be on the shelf right now. It may have only been available at a distillery. It may have been discontinued years ago. Regardless, if the number comes up, we're going to open it and tell you what we think.
You do it.
All right, here we go. Come on, Red Randy. I'd like to not move and get a bottle right behind me.
I think those days are done. Ooh.
151. Now, reminds me of a rum.
No, is it 151? Is it rum? Yes.
By?
Is that Bacardi?
Yes, it is. Very good. Okay, but we're not a rum show. Arg. We're a whiskey review show. Bottle 151 is actually, I believe, going to be on the backside, pretty high up. We'll see everybody around the corner for bottle 151. On the backside, pretty high up as promised, bottle 151 via our handy-dandy numbering system is right here. 151, if you can see it. Which brings us to an Islay Single Malt Scotch Whisky, coming in at 12 years old, 45.8% ABV, just shy of Malcolm's favorite at 46. We're really going to test the guy tonight who's becoming an Islay man, likes the 46% ABV. Tonight we have a 12-year-old Port Askaig. Now, Port Askaig, of course, is not a distillery. We'll talk a little bit more about that back at the bar. Hey, buddy.
What's up?
Got an Islay for you.
I've heard this is not a distillery, though. So how does that figure?
All right. So, well, first off, what do we have? We have the Port Askaig 12-year-old coming in at 45.8%. Islay Single Malt Scotch Whisky. It's a single malt Scotch whiskey. What do you mean it's not a distillery?
Well, you just said it's not a distillery.
What if it was? What if I was tricking you?
Well, then you're tricking me.
Because I know you listen.
All right.
I worry about the retention.
No, there's no retention.
All right, so here we go. So the Port Askaig, as you know, Mal, we open them, right?
Yep.
So we'll talk a little bit about Malcolm's question based upon what I was saying earlier. Little resistance here. Yep, just broke free.
Ooh, lively.
Yes, I agree, lively. Well, it jumped out of the bottle. Sometimes the cork jumps out of the bottle, but the cork held fast, but the juice won it out. All right, the Port Askaig 12-year-old. Malcolm, you asked a good question. I brought it up earlier myself. Is Port Askaig a distillery? I had said no.
All right.
You're wondering why. So you're not like going, no, I've heard of that distillery.
No.
But you've heard of this whiskey.
Yes.
We've even opened a bottle of Port Askaig before.
I'll believe you.
Okay. I'm telling the truth. So, Port Askaig is located where?
It's Islay.
Yes. You're still stuck in region, right?
Okay.
Okay. The region of Islay is named after what?
The island.
The island.
Island of... No, I can't think of the name.
Yes, you can. You just said it like several times.
Islay.
Yes. Okay. So Port Askaig is actually a port, is the name of a port, right? You know, sort of where there's this half circle and the natural coastline.
Yeah.
Right. Port Askaig is the main port of entry to Islay.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a independent labeling, independent bottling. The difference being if it was just an independent bottling, we would know who the distiller was, but bottled by Cadenheads or bottled by Gordon and MacPhail.
Okay.
Right, exactly. But so this is an independent bottling done by an independent labeler. So Port Askaig is the name of the label,
Okay.
right? But it's not the name of the distillery because there is no distillery, Port Askaig.
So you're telling me that there's a company that's bringing in barrels from whoever,
Yes.
and then they're just labeling it as their own, being based in Port Askaig, and then they're selling it as their own.
Right. Now, what they're doing is buying spirit and or barrels, right? So they may buy barrels from somebody
Okay.
in Islay,
Yeah.
right? Because it's labeled as an Islay and there are rules, right? So they're buying barrels from somebody, right? And they're either buying new make or beginning to be aged. And then they could take it and do as they pleased with it as the owners of that spirit or barrel now.
But
Unless there's some stipulation in the purchase agreement that this particular has to remain in this particular way.
so I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Okay.
So they're buying barrels from someone,
Yep.
taking these barrels, and they just store them, or are they going to do something else to put a twist on it? Or is it literally they're buying the barrel and that's going to sit here for X amount of years, and then we're going to freaking tap it, and then we're going to sell it?
Yes. To all of the above.
So this could be an Ardbeg.
So imagine they bought the spirit
Yep.
or a barrel from Ardbeg.
Yep.
They could either keep it the way they bought it,
Okay.
continue to age it that way,
Yep.
or they could add their own aging maturation twist to it.
But they have no...
Because they are the owner. And their agreement, it seems, is they are not allowed to reveal the source of their spirit. Other independent bottlers can reveal if they have permission, but there are labels such as Secret Speyside, right? So where you've got it at an affordable price, or
Yep.
there was some sort of an arrangement, but you cannot divulge who distilled that spirit, because that distillation process, from the barley to how it was treated and roasted, and then the size and the shape of the still, is all going to impact flavor. So some distilleries command more of a price just because you get to use the name. Does that make sense?
Bits and pieces of it. It seems odd that someone would allow their barrels to leave them to be relabeled by a completely independent label without any sort of knowledge that this is,
Right.
hey, this is such and such.
No
This is-
attribution, no glory given.
yeah.
Right.
This is like, hey, go ahead, buy these barrels.
So some of you are screaming at the screen right now, it's Colila, it's Colila, right? Though we were talking about Ardbeg. Now, it doesn't say Colila,
Okay.
right? But Colila is known on Islay to be the biggest producer. And they are also known to be willing to have conversations with independent purchasers for barrels and spirit.
Okay.
Does that mean automatically it's Port Askaig? No, not automatically. Another feature would be is that Port Askaig is and has a core range, is continuously available. This isn't a one-off bottle, a single cask, one of 238. This is their 12-year-old.
Which they mass produce.
Well, which
Within
certainly seemingly is available.
Okay.
Okay, so that's another reason it could be Colila, just because of the amount of spirit they would need to continue to access. And what else do we know? Port Askaig has well more than one release. They have a seasons release, I think a fall, winter, summer, that sort of thing. They have an 8-year-old. I think you and I have opened that.
Yep.
And they've just recently released batch number 1, I think, of either a cask strength, batch strength, or a single cask. Either way, we have it here. So all that information brought together says where they're getting this spirit from, their casks from, certainly is producing a quantity.
Something they can afford to.
Because we know of no distillery on Islay that only produces for disbursement.
All right.
I believe all Islay distilleries release under their label, as well as are we willing to sell out.
Interesting.
Not like, you're a sellout, man, but we'll sell out our stock.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right.
That's interesting.
All right. There you go, buddy.
Yep.
All right. The Port Askaig 12-year-old. If you knew all that and I got any part wrong, please let us know in the comments. But I believe that to be a pretty true accounting of Port Askaig. All right. So while you talk color, I just want to check if there was a statement.
Is a pale straw color.
All right, 45.8.
Indicative of a lot of the Islas that we've been drinking.
The warmth and character of Islay. Lots of words that are just about impossible to really pick up on without spending more time than I should on it. We'll find out about color statements, chill filtration, and whatnot. But we've got a light whiskey, Mal, right?
Yes.
Right.
Straw colored.
Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of some Islas we've had in the past. Correct. Where it just does not seem like this Correct. Is what it should be like because of the depth of Islas or the intensity or the robustness or the darkness or the smokiness of Islas. Just
the ingredients. When I think of an Islay, and the peat and the smoke and the season, blah, 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 I would think it'd be a lot darker liquid.
Absolutely. I really agree with you. Coming in at 12 years with the color we have here, you and I have a little bit of experience. It's hard to believe that I'm going to color my 12-year-old whiskey to this.
Correct.
I just want to believe this is a no color added. At this 45.8, we're knocking on 46's door. Seems pretty darn reasonable. We're in a non-chill filter 2. Again, we'll see what we can find out. Ready?
Yep.
All right. It's an Islay, right? It's not amazingly intense. I'm not like knocked backwards as an Islay, but it's a sharp, not a smooth Islay.
Yes, and it had a building intenseness about it. Mm-hmm. Like as I sniffed it more, it started to just peak, and then it stopped. Yeah. And then it was good.
Yeah, there's a pretty clear ending point about 2/3 of the way in on the nose, but it jumps right at you as a pretty sharp Islay.
Now this one I'm getting a lot more medicinal.
Medicinal, the word was going to fall out of my mouth. Yes.
Like this one, if I'm going to go back to my roots, this one's starting to worry me. In the sense like now I'm picking out stuff that I really... So is this something I really want to try?
So there's a song called Here Comes Sunshine. So you're saying, here comes Islay.
But much more potent. There's a lot. This smell is...
You know, what we didn't do with the lid on was just seriously, because as I'm looking at your glass, we didn't do much on runs, and I just shook
mine were legs were developing.
Yeah, you've been holding still for a bit, and they're dropping... There's only about a 1/2 inch of legs on that glass, but they are all over the place. Yeah.
But yeah, this one I pick up more medicinal than anything else.
Yeah, I get the medicinal. It's very sharp. It's
maybe a wisp of the sea.
Yeah.
Not really getting a lot of smoke.
Not overwhelmed. It's a very...
But that sweet peat smell.
It's very light. Wow. It remains incredibly stunning to me how regions, even in their classic expressions, can be so different, right? That one Islay to the next that's Correct. Not been fancy casked, not a red wine, not a sherry, not an STR cask, right? That just has just been casked. How different. And this goes to stills. And this goes to distillation time and production.
But the overall feeling this is very medicinal.
Sharp, clean, and medicinal. This is a surgical tool. This has one job. To represent Islay. On the nose, at least. All right, enough of that. Let's see if it tastes as it noses.
Cheers.
Cheers. The Port Askaig, 12-year-old, 45.8%. That's an Islay, but it's... So here's my word, Mal. It's an Islay, but it's on its way to refinement. And what I mean by that is imagine you were born into a great house on Fifth Avenue, and now you're like 24, 25 years old, and you know what you're going to get, but your days of foolishness, your days of throwing it around are slowly winding down as you're moving into your age of maturation and understanding. This is a whiskey on its way to refinement. I think it's pretty nice. I'm impressed at 12 years old, and I would be very curious as to what this would be at 16 or 18 years. I find it very smooth and very sharp.
The outstanding part of this is the smoothness. I like the way you're talking about this maturation that it's going through. It's not quite at this level, but it's certainly not at this robust, I'm going to beat you up and I'm going to teach you what Islays are all about. This is almost like you get to that point where I've got that sense as an Islay, but it's trying to be bigger. Trying to be bigger is probably a good word. Bigger than it actually is. What I like about this is that edge that's nicely rounded in the sense that I don't have to, I'm not going to be hurt, but I got a feeling of if this was a little bit younger, oh, this may hurt.
So I'm going to bring you somewhere right there. So I believe earlier this season we had a Port Askaig 8-year-old, and you struggled with that experience. And you had to find, and if I recall correctly, you had to find an environment where you would be able to enjoy that particular whiskey. I had a little bit more of a friendly approach to it, right? But you were like, I don't know, right? I think what you're saying about this as 4 more years has really helped this develop.
Yes.
I agree with you. This is a much different expression than their 8-year-old. It is on the way to like something very good, which means it's pretty darn good because of that duality of that smooth sharpness.
Yeah, because there's a creamy sense that I get when you get done with the initial in your mouth and you let it slosh around. There's a creamy sense that just allows this drink to go down. Without any fight.
It's like a salve, right? It's a creamy medicine.
Actually, I like that. Right? I like that.
Yeah, because that sharpness is the medicinal.
I like that salve because that's exactly what I feel. I have a hard time picking out flavors because I haven't really thought about the flavors.
I haven't either.
Because of how this drink has worked, I've got this initial intrepidation, like all medicinal. And then it has this soothing finish that just like allows you to just finish the drink like it's not even there, and I like that.
Yep, I think that it has the beginning side of a medium body. It really presents well through its entire experience from your first sip to your swallow. This is, and I stand by it. This is an Islay. Not trying to be fancy. It's an Islay, and forgive me, everybody. It's an Islay in the Colilla sense, and there are elements of Lefroy here too.
Okay.
In terms of the medicinal sharpness.
Yep. All right.
Right. I would say I tend to find an Ardbeg a little more robust, and not as a criticism between the two, but just in terms of potential sources. Right. The spirit reminds me of both Colilla and Lefroy. It doesn't really remind me of a Lagavulin, an Ardbeg. I just don't, it's hard to imagine it's a Bunnahabhain or a Bruichladdich, right, which would really be their Port Charlotte. Right, because that's their peated expressions. I just find this to be this is an Islay.
I think that definition and now I have a hard time struggling with this. Again, we're on this journey where we get to drink many different aspects of what the Scotch world offers, and this region for me is the outlier. It's like
Mordor.
It really is. It's just clouds and this lightning and just darkness. And what I have a hard time dealing with now is not being able to justify that tag.
Not just being able to dismiss it as so predictably awful.
Correct.
Right.
And that's why I think I have a hard time pulling the flavors, because I want to go to the dirty boot, the wet sock that's been over a fire, the seaweed that's been dragged across the sand. But these expressions, there is something more. There is something smooth. There's something well designed that allows you to enjoy these drinks more so than I would have thought, based on the fact when I heard Islay,
Right.
it was Mordor. Now I have this feeling of like, wow, I wonder how smooth they can actually make them. And every time we've gone into this part of the regions that we go to, I am amazed at how well they put. Now, I'm not saying that this is super smooth, but the build allows you to truly enjoy the drink. And this ending on this one is so silky smooth, so silky smooth.
Okay, we're going to find out what the crew has for us. But as we've been sort of referencing, Middle Earth.
Yeah.
This is a whiskey of a wood elf. It doesn't see a lot of sunshine,
It doesn't.
but it delivers a lot of
Wow.
flavor. Let's see what the crew has for us.
Eh?
Son of a gun. We're going on an adventure, Malcolm.
We are.
May fortune favor the foolish.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. It is, and I'm looking forward to an off-camera side by side with the 8-year-old. But this is a whiskey on its way to real maturation. It would be wonderful to try a 16 or a 20-year-old version of this. That being said, this 12-year-old delivers the goods.
It does, and I thoroughly agree with you. From the 8 to the 12, it is a night and day expression.
1/3 growth.
1/3 growth.
4, 8, 12.
With a bearded man and a British guy.